a lot, and we used to have With Winning in Mind. We had the CDs, and we would put those into. We had a Honda Pilot, and in the Honda Pilot year 2012 through 15, they had this feature where if you put a CD in, the hard drive would memorize it up to 10 CDs, and so we had With Winning in Mind in there, and we used to listen to that constantly in the car. 1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy, har har.
Believe it or not,
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
And we're going to do it right after this.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Podcast.
All right, so welcome to the Lawyer Dana podcast. Today we have a very special guest, one of my favorite people ever, possibly my favorite author. So besides the people that wrote the Bible, I think you probably are my favorite author, period.
Really? Cool.
And although my book was published, I actually like an ISBN number, and it was published a week ago. I didn't know until like 2 days ago, and apparently it's selling okay. It's called Get Paid So That You Can Have a Life. It's a book for lawyers because half of the lawyers that are out there don't actually know anything about how to run their business, and they were doing like I did more than 10 years ago. I would do $300,000 or $400,000 a year worth of work, and I'd receive about $60,000 a year because I didn't know how to run the business of the law firm right. And now we do millions every year, and we know how to run it really well. And I have staff and people that help and back us up, and so. And I've spent millions of dollars to learn how to do that. And I've hired coaches, and we're going to I bet you 50 cents in this podcast that we talk about some kind of coaching, because he's also my favorite coach I've ever had. And Brenda, who's not here, enjoy your vacation, Brenda. Happy birthday today too, by the way. But she called up Lanny to come speak at one of my conferences, and she goes, well, why don't I just call Lanny Bassham? You love him, and he would be a great guest speaker for you. And I was like, right. Yeah, sure. As if you can do that. Like as if I could ever be somebody who could get Lanny Bassham to come on a show. So, and a few days later, Brenda calls me up and goes, so Lanny's coming to speak. I'm like, what?
Well,
what?
Well, you also got his lovely wife, Helen.
I did. Yes. And we have, have we ever had, so we've had 4 people before, but not two guests, because we've had Brenda and I on this side of the table, and then Jennifer and a guest. And so this,
but
you're our first
today, and we're very excited.
Very excited. Helen, who is, you couldn't have done it without her, and I bet you 50 cents he's going to talk about that too. But to get back to my introduction, Lanny is an Olympic silver medalist from 1972. I won't mention that was before I was born. Maybe I just did. Are we going to have to cut that part out? This is where. But in 1976, in honor of my birth 2 years before, it was all about me, right? Just kidding. I have to try and make this podcast funny so that we get some. But in 1976, he won the gold medal in rifles for the United States. And I'm going to let you tell that part of the story, or we can talk about whatever you want to. I'm just so happy to have both of you here.
He also wrote the book Freedom Flight, which we don't have on the table, but is an incredible book.
Freedom Flight changed my life even more than With Winning in Mind. But With Winning in Mind changed my life and my business. I found that book right around the 5th or 6th year of my career, where I found it after I had already hired my first law firm management coach. And actually it was Summer that found the book, and Heather actually was teaching dog training, because did you see the agility equipment kind of in our backfield over here? And Summer was learning agility, and Heather taught that class. And actually Heather came and taught a class in our conference room one time in McKinney. And I really wanted to go to that class, but I didn't. But Summer learned a lot, and we used to have With Winning in Mind. We had the CDs, and we would put those into, we had a Honda Pilot. And in the Honda Pilot year 2012 through 15, they had this feature where if you put a CD in, the hard drive would memorize it up to 10 CDs. And so we had With Winning in Mind in there, and we used to listen to that constantly in the car for years. That's what we listened to. We wouldn't even like have music on because it was around the time where nobody's really buying any CDs. We're not carrying CDs. The day of the book full of CDs opening it was over, you know, because we used to roll around. Did you do that like in high school, or did you ever?
Oh,
You had your
You had your favorite
and then the
CDs.
coolest people in the world were the people not just that had the double layer like
I still
a thing of
remember
here,
cassette
but they were
tapes.
4, right? Did you ever have an 8-track?
No, I don't remember having an 8-track, but I definitely we went through the cassette era, you know, all the things that we were producing originally were cassettes. And so we had these little boxes of cassettes, you know, and 8 cassettes or 16 cassettes, whatever it is. We did all that before CDs came on, and now everybody wants to listen on their phone. So
That's right. I don't think they're even. Are they even? I guess they are because Walmart has CD section, I think. But I haven't listened to anything except through my phone in years.
I just know DVDs. Like I took it to a moving trading company. My mom, I had to get rid of some of hers. They gave me like for I think 25 DVDs, 45 cents. Like, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, 2 pence, 2 cents a piece.
Yeah.
If you give us $1, we'll throw these away for
I
you.
think if it's a Disney, it's like $1. But other than that, it's everything else is like.
I have back over here. I have some boxes of CDs, and they're labeled. And I have, get this, I have empty CD cases that has now become a joke between me and Summer. She's like, "Yeah, you're glad you're saving these empty CD cases, you know, because we lost the CD." And I had this fantasy that, well, you know what, one day I might find that CD, or somebody might give me that CD, and then I'm going to have the case for it. So I've got an empty Pearl Jam 10 album over there. I have Nirvana Nevermind. I think Pearl Jam 10 I had stolen from me about 4 times in the early 90s. And of course I have a whole box full of my Rush CDs, but those are golden. Those I haven't listened to them and probably never going to. Do CDs go bad? Like, do they crust up and just degrade? Like,
I think if they're left in the heat, they go bad.
they're a lot better
Who
than
knows?
VHS tape.
oh yeah,
Yes.
those melt together.
They don't work very well after about. I mean, it's not going to last. Like we just dumped how many box after box after box of VHS tapes because we used to buy VHS, you know, before the DVDs came out, and but just couldn't get rid of them for some reason. Could not get rid of them, but we finally did.
Now do you have VHS of you either shooting or teaching or any of those things?
Yeah, I actually produced 8 VHS CD tapes back in the 80s. Actually, on mental management, on rifle, on 3-position rifle, how to shoot the 3 positions and how to think while you did it, and so they did all right.
So you mentioned mental management, and this is where your forte is. In fact, your company's called Mental Management Systems.
Right.
And just by the way, I can't emphasize to you enough, if you own a business, if you work at a business, if you breathe oxygen and you want to succeed at anything in life, read with winning in mind. And then you have another book called, or is this one by Troy, maybe, but Parenting Champions? Was that one?
That's mine.
That's yours?
Yeah.
That's one of, so you have 2 books that I haven't read yet. One, or maybe that one's Troy, but I haven't read Parenting Champions yet. It's on my agenda to read. I can't believe I haven't read that book yet. But then, what's the golf one?
Oh, that's Troy.
That's Troy, right?
Troy has 2 books. He has Attainment, and he has For the Mind, which is a golf book.
And so our listeners know Troy is their son.
Yes.
So,
And we have
Yeah.
Helen
yes, this is Helen.
and Troy. Helen of Troy, not Helen of Troy, but Helen. Actually, it's Troy of Helen.
There you go. Well, I would say Freedom Flight is incredible, and that's how your story began. Was on that airplane and being next to Jack. And, I will say that book alone, like, I actually read it again last night. And I will tell you, like, it's so helpful in so many perspectives. Whatever you're going through in life, it really puts a lot of things in perspective. It makes you realize, like, no matter what you're going through, it's your mindset. And some things you can't control in life, and other things you can, and you can control it by your mindset. And it put a lot of things in perspective for me, so I highly recommend people to read that. But, I really love listening to how Jack created such enthusiasm in you. And I feel like, the way he says it and how you wrote it in the book, had he not gone through that situation, like that situation, he doesn't look at that situation as something that he went through for no reason. He looked at it because he did it. That situation was created for him to go through so he could help you and other people in your situation. So
it's hard to have in life a situation where you go, those 7 years in that POW camp were damn well worth it. I'm glad that happened.
Well, you wouldn't expect for somebody to say something like that. That
no.
pretty
Exactly.
much gets your attention. But that's the way God works.
Uh-huh.
That is.
He puts obstacles in your way and to train you, to build you, to grow you, and just when you think everything it couldn't be worse, you haven't learned something, and so if you pay attention and you learn it, then things are going to get better. And most of the time, I think we want to control everything. We want to solve the problems, when really and truly we should just ask God to get in the front of the boat, and I'll just paddle, and you just tell me where we're going, and I'll just paddle as best I can, and I'll watch you work, instead of us trying to fix everything.
Right, and have a little faith,
That's right.
I mean, I love that part where he felt like he was about to die, and, he was like, I either believe in God in this moment or I don't, and he chose to believe, and he prayed, and then all of a sudden it rained, and it's amazing how the branches and everything just brought the water to him, as if God was like, hey, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm with you, you're not alone. And I think a lot of times as people, we forget that piece about God. Like, he is there. We forget that he's right there with us, side by side.
The most amazing price was paid by him. Yes. And then the most amazing blessings have come out of that. I mean, I can't fathom paying a price like that. But I heard another story that's almost identical recently, I think in the past week, of a guy who was wrongfully convicted for 20-something years and got out, and somebody asked him, how did you make it through? He goes, I wasn't there. And it's like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, I've had an amazing life because all I did, he goes, I've met the Queen. I have been to the Olympics 5 times. I have gone traveled around the world. I've gone to the most beautiful beaches, because what he did was he just visualized the same exact things, and he actually lived that, and he came out as a joyous person. And it was the most amazing story, and I was like, freedom flight. It's exactly the same thing. Jennifer, do you want to give, since you just read it last night, or we could ask the author, however you want, or Helen, pretty much anybody but me on this one. Can we give a synopsis of what Freedom Flight is?
Well,
I think it's important.
I don't want to destroy it for the person going to read it, but like when I okay, so here's the setup. It's a parable written about a true event. And obviously, when you write a book that's years away from the true event, you're not going to remember the exact words that were said or anything that happens. But what I did is I was so impacted by someone I met on an airplane, and it was a life-changing experience, a life-changing moment for me. just at the time when I needed it the most, God put a guy in the seat next to me and started telling me his story and changing my life. So that's what Freedom Flight's about. It's about being on a plane and being all messed up and getting fixed by what the principles and the things that he was sharing with me. And everything in the book that happened to me are 100% the best I can tell you. My purpose of the book is to try to get a person that's reading it to try to have something similar to the experience that I had by meeting this character. And it's based on a true event. It's based on a guy that was actually for sure went through all this stuff. But that's the essence. Without taking too much away from it, by going through the book, you'll understand why I didn't want to sit next to him. Start with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then basically, the thing that happened with Freedom Flight was really kind of interesting. When I came home from this trip and had this experience on this airplane, I started utilizing the things that were shared with me, and it was a game changer as far as changing my attitude, and things became clearer, and I was able to advance. And then after I won the gold medal in the Olympics and won the World Championships again, and all that, started teaching mental management. And I started doing some keynote talks, and so one day I just decided to tell Jack's story and it became the keynote talk that everybody wanted me to.
Was Freedom Flight
share.
your first book, or was With Winning in Mind your first book?
No, With Winning in Mind was my first book, and but I didn't want to write. I didn't think I could write, so that's another story about how
I know that story, and I think that story is both informative and also really funny. Knowing now, like Lanny, you remember back when you thought you couldn't write, you were wrong. You weren't right, because you could write and you did write, and
but
they're excellent.
So what happened with Freedom? Just to close up Freedom Flight, so not thinking I could, I didn't want to write another book, so I did this keynote so many times that I felt like, okay, I'm gonna, this is a keynote now. It's not a book. But I was on an airplane ride coming home from a talk someplace, and the captain comes over the airplane, the sound system, and it says, we have a light that's come on, and we have to land the airplane and fix the problem, and we're going to be on the ground about 7 hours.
Holy cow!
Great, and I'm wanting.
Was this
to
a
get
military
home.
plane or commercial?
Do what?
Was this a military plane at the time or the commercial?
No, this is after I'm
after you're out. Okay,
I'm
yeah.
out of the military.
Yeah.
And so I'm tired. I want to go home, and I'm 7 hours to the airport. So everybody's complaining, and I find myself in one of those magazine shops, and I buy a pad of paper, and I sit down, and when they call for the flight, I really don't remember writing, but the entire book was written before I got back on the plane.
Wow.
Sitting at the airport.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
sitting at the airport.
At the airport, he wrote a book called Freedom Flight. Were you there with him? No.
In that 6 hour period, when I got home, the book was sitting there. I don't remember
That
writing
is
Freedom
incredible.
Flight.
So when he came back from 1976 Olympics, he just won the gold medal, and he just went through all that with Jack on the plane, How was he as a person? I mean, he had been different before he left. I mean, you probably saw a huge change in him.
Well, 72 or 76?
76.
In Montreal.
Yeah.
Well, I think did the plane ride with Jack happen between 72 and 76? Was that the key to you figuring out mental management?
The plane ride happened in the in it was right after the it was in 1974.
Oh, okay.
That's when
okay.
it happened.
Oh, okay.
Was it around July of 74?
Because I'm sure after he won the silver, he was
God
kinda
was on
upset,
point in 1974.
No, but
I'm a big
I
fan
can
of the work that
understand
God
that.
did in 1974.
Yeah, I bet. So going through 1974, he's on this plane ride, and he comes back home. How was he after that?
In the dumps.
Yeah.
Real interesting.
yeah, let me
Yeah.
let me. I wanted to do this and I didn't do it. Okay. Got an airplane mode my phone because it.
Oh, you know what?
It pops into my hearing aids. You know, you get a
Oh.
spam call and
Yeah.
my hearing aids go boom boom boom. Boom, you know, and I can't talk when my hearing aids are messed up. So.
So he
So-
was not. He wasn't in a great mindset from.
No,
No.
not really.
No.
He had an issue,
Right.
and he was going the wrong direction as far as his self-image.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got it straightened out.
That's.
I want to
good.
hear more about this because this
Well-
is news to me.
But I think it's great because you're his wife and you're the one that's trying to support him, and it's really hard as a woman, as a wife, to try to support their husband when their husband's going through something really difficult, you know. And men don't always communicate very well. So as women, we're trying to dig in and figure it out and try to help. And so I think that's really a big point.
In fact, I think as a man, until you do like 40 episodes of a podcast, you don't realize how badly you actually do communicate. Because I've watched the podcast and go, wait, did I finish that thought right there? Do I? I went on 10 tangents and I don't think I ever got back to what I was trying to say. I was like, great, we get a new episode because I'm going to have to do this
Oh,
one
yeah,
again.
Yeah.
Well, we could do something about the fact that nobody achieves anything really great by themselves.
No.
You know, you always have people, and normally it's a spouse or a parent or a mentor or a coach or maybe it's multiple people. But I couldn't have done anything. The gold medal. As a matter of fact, there's no way I would have ever won a gold medal in the Olympics because Helen got me out of college at the right time. We got married our junior year, my junior year in college, and we're high school sweethearts, you know. So we've known each other a long time since high school. But you can tell that story. But how did you get me out of school a year early? And if she hadn't have done that, I would have missed the Olympics in '72. And if I hadn't gone to the Olympics in 1972, I would not have ever qualified in '76. So tell them how did you get me out of school?
Well, I had quit school and decided to work so we could get married earlier. And I found a job when we were fixing to get married. I needed to be close to where his school was. I wound up getting a job in the registrar's office. So it has all of the, everybody who's ever been through that college, all the records are there. And so I was just helping this one girl to do the work. And then all of a sudden, right after Christmas, she disappears. And so now I'm the one doing the work, and they never get another person to help me. I guess I did too good of a job. I don't know. But I
usually what
enjoyed it, though. I'm a person that I want to get my work done. I want to get it done. Well, he was telling me, and he said, I'm going into my last semester. I don't have enough credits for it to get out. What do I need to take? I said, no problem. I go to the office, and I go to my boss, and I said, okay, here's his transcript. This is what he's in. What does he need to take to get out? He says, okay, he needs this, 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 and this, and we'll graduate him. I went home, told him what he needed to do. He did it, graduated.
Awesome.
Nice.
Sometimes you have to be inside in order to get the other done.
Yes.
But that kind of started that, and you know, timing is everything in some of these things, and one of the reasons why I was so messed up on the Freedom Flight side was that when I got to the Army Marksmanship Unit, I made the U.S. team, and at that time the United States was dominant. We held all the world records and everything like that were held, and all of our champions in the United States were in the Army at the United States Army Marksmanship Unit. So that was the great place to be. It was hard to get there, and I got there, but for the first 3 years that I was on the U.S. team, I didn't win anything. And the best I did was a silver medal in Olympics, but that's not winning anything. Now, winning a silver medal, I'm not against a silver. Don't get me wrong, a silver is 10 times better than a bronze, and a bronze is 10 times better than no medal at all. Right. And just making an Olympic team is a big deal. Yep. I mean, you get a lot of free stuff when you make an Olympic team. You should make an Olympic team. As one of your life goals, make an Olympic team. You'll get all kinds of stuff.
It is
free and a nice trip, but I never felt like I was a winner, you know, and that bothered me. And that was the mindset that I was in 1974. This is before the World Championships in 1974, and I had not won a national championship or a World Cup or anything for 3 long years, and I was dejected and disappointed in myself. I felt like I let Helen down, let my country down, and I mean I didn't realize that I had to have a major change in the way I was thinking, and especially about outcome, and that was kind of the setup for when he showed up. Now the story that relates to Helen is happened in 1976. I had another, you know, so you say, boy, you've accomplished a lot. You know, well, I've really messed up a lot. You know, it's just learning from your mess ups. So the only time in my life that I can ever remember that I suffered from depression was the day they put the Olympic gold medal around my neck.
Was that, because I've heard of this, in that you've achieved your goal, and then it's now what? Now I don't have anything to live for. Yeah, did you not have another goal after that, or?
I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that. I thought that when I won the gold medal in the Olympics, I would be happy and all that kind of stuff. And Helen and my dad were staying off campus. I was, of course, staying at the Olympic Village, and I went back with her to where she was staying, and I just totally came undone, and I was crying, and there were parties I was supposed to go to that night. I didn't go to them, and I was just I did, and she figured it out. She after a while she told me, she says, you don't know who you are. You know, you've always known who you were, and a goal was already always established for you every time you achieve one thing. There's always another one there. Like if you're a champion and you're a club champion, well, there's a state champion. If you're a state champion, there's a national champion. There's a world champion. Even after a world champion, there's Olympic champion. Okay, but what's bigger than the Olympics for an international rifle shooter? There isn't anything bigger. There's not a universe games or anything like that afterwards. And so for the first time in my life, I didn't automatically know what the next hill to climb was.
Did you not think it was, okay, 4 years from now, let's do it?
No. It was a different thing. My motivation was to see if I could do it. And to do something that I hadn't done, that was the mindset. But she finally told me, she said, and it's become a principle in, that we teach all that I got from her, is she said that you never want to reach a goal without setting another one to take its place.
Yep.
And I said, well, what's bigger? What's bigger than the Olympics? What am I going to do? And then she told me, she says, well, I'll give you one. Pay me back.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.